Hi, you're sewing with Cody and Pete, and today's video, it's maybe a multi-part video, we'll see, but we're going to dive into the Stitch Designer, which is found on the 880 and the 790 machines. This is an awesome feature. I did a class on this a few weeks ago and everybody just absolutely loved it. So let's go into it. So what Stitch Designer is we are able to either create our own decorative stitches from scratch, or you can take a design, a decorative stitch, manipulate it to the point where it's a totally different design. So we're going to start with using one of the hearts. Now let's see if we can find the heart. There she is. Oh, look, perfect. So stitch 712 on the BERNINA 790. So here is a heart. So what we're able to do, something real basic. So right now we can look at the stitch 712 and we can see how it's bold compared to some of the other stitches. So this is telling me that this is a triple stitch. So one of the things we can do is we can take a triple stitch and turn it into a single stitch, and vice versa. The new 5 series can do this too. They're able to take a design that's a single stitch and transfer it to a triple stitch. I'm not 100% sure if you can take a triple stitch and transfer it to a single stitch, but with the BERNINA 790 and 880, you're able to do this in the Stitch Designer. So we selected our design. We can then come to our Stitch Designer icon, which is right here. So you can click on it. And then, so right off the bat, this is another indication that the design is a triple stitch. See how bold it is here as well? And you'll notice that the triple stitch function is selected. So what we can do is we don't want to just click on that, because what it's going to do is just going to turn just this one stitch, this one section, from a triple stitch to a single stitch. We need to select the entire design. And to select the entire design, you'll select this icon here, and then we'll select the entire design, which is this icon. So now you can see the entire design turned blue. So now we can select, or essentially deselect, the triple stitch, and now it's a single stitch. Super simple. So now if you hit the check mark, it will then now stitch out our hearts as a single stitch. So let's go back to Stitch Designer and manipulate this design even further. So we've got our heart. So let's zoom out so we can see a little bit more what we're working with. So if you look at your screen, you can see this center section is a lighter color than the outer section. What this is this is the 9mm stitch width area. So we can create designs that will only be stitched in the 9mm section or 9mm size, so we won't be using the sideways motion, the multi-directional stitching. But if we want to create a multi-directional stitch or a stitch that's much bigger, we can eliminate those 9mm parameters by selecting the 9mm icon right here. So we select that area is going to go away. So now the whole section is blue. So now, zoom out just so you can see a little bit more. So now I've got our design, but just say if you want to make it a little different, want to make it a little bit bigger, what we can do is we can select the entire design and we can make a copy of it. So let's go select the entire design like we did previously, make a copy. So now we've got 2 of them, but over here on the left-hand side, you'll see this is what our design will look out when we actually stitch it out. And that doesn't look any different than it would normally. And it's not going to look any different because now we've got 2 of the same designs side by side and there's no change. But let's mirror image it. So now you can see here what it's just mirror image the heart, and this is what the stitching will look like. Kind of weird, but different. But that's not the look we're going for. But what we can do is we have this design selected still. So let's use our stitch width knob, and we're going to turn it clockwise. And look what happens over here. So move it so it has a nice straight line. So this is our new stitch. This is really neat. So that will create a whole new stitch. So if you want to stitch it out, you just hit the check mark and you can start stitching. And we can see our size, 9mm by 15.7mm. But we can take it a step further. Let's go and select a few points, and then we can kind of shift our design up. So we're going to select a few points, delete them, and then kind of move our design. So let's come here. Let's go and select single stitches. So now we can say, let's come here and select this stitch. Oh, so what happens is you see these hearts here. That's a whole nother design. Like I said, there's no wrong design. It's just, they're all just different. It really depends on what the end product that you want will depend on when you want to stop. But that's not what I want because I forgot to select something. So let's do click the undo button and bring it back to what we have here. So what I did is I selected this, which will allow me to select individual designs. However, I didn't select the select icon or hit the select icon, which is this guy here. I was still on the draw icon. So let's go and select another, press the select button. So now I can go and click a stitch and I can delete a stitch if I wanted to. So now we can select and delete. So now you can see those dots represent a needle penetration. So now we're eliminating some of those needle penetrations. So basically our stitch length in certain sections is longer. But what we can do is we can select a certain multiple points at a time, and we can then shift the design up or down. So since we've deleted a few points, let's see, because you can use these toggles to toggle through each stitch penetration. So let's delete this one too. So now let's come here and select the center icon. The center icon will allow you to select multiple points. This one selects all, this one selects one, this one selects multiple. So what we can do, we have that selected. Now you can see it turns a little blue. So we want to select everything below that. Okay, let's see if this will work. So now we have that heart selected. So let's see if we can use our bottom knob and move it up. So we're getting the hearts closer and closer. And we'll have to do some more manipulation. So I see a point here that I need to delete. So let's come here, and I can select that point and delete that point. And then see how they're not like they're closer here, but further apart here. That's because we still have this nice long line here and here. So let's make sure we're selecting one point and select. So we can select this point, delete it, and see how the hearts are getting closer. Let's select the first point and delete it. So now my heart's getting closer and closer because I'm eliminating some of these stitches. Perfect. So let's see. So we can select that point and shift. So you're able to adjust the distance of different points. But let's go and select this whole heart again, and just so we can shift it up just a little bit more. So remember, we'll come here, select multiple points, but not all, and then we can just scroll down till we get to the very last point. And now we can use our bottom knob and shift it up some. So now you have a whole new larger stitch that's just multiple hearts, and it should stitch out beautifully. All right, this is definitely part one of the Stitch Designer. So this one we went over taking a design, we brought it from a triple stitch to a single stitch, and then we multiplied it, mirror imaged it, and brought it closer together to create a whole new, slightly larger decorative stitch. All right, well, happy sewing and stay tuned for part two of Stitch Designer.